Tax Network is a one-stop solution for all your indirect tax requirements. The new registrant will come to the GST portal www.gst.gov.in.
Taxpayer shall click on New User Login.
This will open a new page where all the important required information has been given. He shall select type of taxpayer, for example, normal, casual tax person, non-resident tax network is a one-stop solution for all your indirect tax requirements. The new registrant will come to the GST portal www.gst.gov.in.
The system Taxpayer shall click on New User Login.
This will open a new page where all the important required information has been given. He shall select type of taxpayer, for example, normal, casual tax person, non-resident tax network is a one-stop solution for all your indirect tax. You can use this TRN for proceeding further. An OTP will be received again on the phone and email. After entering CAPTCHA, the main application shall open with 9 different tabs and 1 verification tab for the convenience of the applicant. In the Business Detail tab, one shall fill the details of business, reason for registration, and other related information. If the new registrant wants to opt in for composition, he shall be required to click on the declaration box or flag mentioned in the Business Detail tab. In the Promoter Partner tab, details of the proprietor, promoter, partner can be filled. Details like name, father's name, residential address, PAN number, and Aadhaar are also required to be filled in. They will also be required to upload a photograph. A maximum of 10 promoter partner details can be added in the Add button. Please save and continue. Now come to the Authorized Signatory tab. All the information related to the authorized signatory like name, father's name, date of birth, PAN, Aadhaar, and residential address can be filled in with a photograph of the concerned person and a letter of authorization as a PDF or JPEG file. In the Principal Place of Business tab, the new registrant can enter the details of location of his or her principal place of business. Documentary proof like electricity bill, municipal receipt, rent agreement, lease agreement, etc. is required to be uploaded. The principal place of business in a state can only be one. In the Additional Place of Business tab, the new registrant can fill the details of additional places of business located in that particular state. No document is required to be uploaded. A maximum of 9,999 additional places of business can be filled in. In Goods and Services tab, one can enter a maximum of 5 goods and/or 5 services.
Goods and services can be searched by the taxpayer.
In the Bank Account Details tab, branch name with the IFSC code is required to be selected from the drop-down menu. The first page of the passbook, bank statement, and any document issued by the bank on its behalf can be uploaded. In the Authorized Representative tab, the applicant can select the name of the GST practitioner from the list or may enter the person's name in the required field. One tab for state-specific information is available, which is optional. After completing these details, one has to submit the form by clicking on the Verification tab. Now you can submit the application by Digital Signature Certificate (DSC) or e-signature or electronic verification code. The application can only be verified and signed by the authorized signatory. After 15 minutes, you should receive an ARN from the portal. Your application is now successfully submitted for processing. Goods and Services Tax, one nation, one tax, one market.
Welcome to the world of Digital India. I am Sandhya, a Digi Saver, and I will guide you through the Digital India program. In this module, we shall discuss about the role of digital technology in everyday life, understanding what Digital India program is, what are the vision areas of Digital India, and its 9 pillars. Remember the days when we had to pen down letters and walked to the nearest post box to drop them? And now, the evolution over the years has enabled us to send messages and letters in less than a second. Let's go back to older times where we had rotary dialer phones. These phones were replaced by mobile phones. Our everyday lives have never been so easy. All thanks to the digital technology which helps in making calls, chatting, sending emails, looking up for information within seconds. Let us now see how people are using digital technology in their day-to-day life. Preeti uses the internet to interact with her friends and to take online lessons. She uses an UPI Pay app on her phone to buy movie tickets, order food, book a cab, and recharge her Metro card. For her, life is fun. Mrs. and Mr. Joseph narrated how easy it was to get a pension certificate from Jeevan Pramaan. For them, life is easier since they can book a doctor's appointment and buy grocery online. Mrs. Geeta said she was fairly surprised when internet worked wonders for her in getting a PAN card within a week. She explained how easily she got her company registered in a few clicks. She now plans to secure herself a position in government's e-marketplace. Mr. Naidu, an employee at Income Tax Department, shares how digitization has speeded up the taxation processes. He is glad that people can now pay their taxes online, avoiding the long hours of queue and processing a file. Citizens of India are utilizing digital technology to improve the quality of life at work and personally. It is amazing. But this is a small segment of the country. Studies reveal that out of 1.2 billion population, only 29% are internet users. The study brings us to a conclusion that there is a high percentage of people who have to go through the process of long waiting hours, stuck with paperwork, or have no access to public services. The Government of India has taken an initiative towards the betterment of country by bridging this gap of digital haves and digital have-nots. The initiative typically ensures that the government services reaches each and every household. To make this initiative work, it is important for citizens and government to interact on a common platform and avail the benefits of digital technology. Digital India is a program with a vision of transforming India into a digitally empowered society and knowledge economy. Digital India is an umbrella departments of the Indian government. It pulls together many existing schemes to be restructured and aims towards improving the existing processes. Moreover, it focuses on implementation of schemes in a synchronized manner. The 3 vision areas of Digital India are infrastructure as a utility to every citizen, governance and services on demand, and digital empowerment of citizens. The key components of first vision are high-speed internet as a core utility, cradle to grave digital identity, unique, lifelong, online and authenticable. Mobile phone and bank account enabling participation in digital and financial space. Easy access to a common service center. Shareable private space on a public cloud. Safe and secure cyberspace. The key components of Second Vision are seamlessly integrated across departments or jurisdictions.
इसमें आ रही है
Very good afternoon, everyone. Once again, welcome back to the webinar series of GSTN. We are happy to see your participation. It's been pleasure that we've been able to give good amount of information on GST. There's another webinar at your disposal today, which is filing of GSTR-3B return. The speaker of today's webinar is Mr. Shashi Bhushan. Mr. Bhushan will apprise us of the three areas of filing of GSTR-3B return, which is return filing, one, which is the overview and the need for the same, demo on the GSTR-3B, and towards the end of it, the question and answer, which is the favorite part of each one of us. So as discussed earlier in earlier webinars as well, there are very basic housekeeping rules that we adhere to. One is, if you're facing any technical problem, you may write in the chat window, which is available on each one's desk. Any queries related to the webinar, you may put it on the Q&A section here. Towards the end of it, we will be launching a poll. We would request that each one of you address to the same, so that it's a continuous improvement for each one of us. Before starting on the session, we would just like to take you through a demo of KMS, where the upload of the presentation for today is there. Just bear with us for another 1 minute. So you may go to Explorer, type kms.negd.in. You may click on this down arrow. It will take you to the search window. Please type GSTN. You will see the very first link. It is the GSTR1 offline tool for Tamil. Then there's another one, which is webinar on. So you may search for today's webinar, which is GSTR1, GSTR-3B. Sorry for this, which is GSTR-3B. I would request today's speaker to start over the session now.
Good afternoon, participants to this session of webinar on filing of GSTR-3B. A very warm welcome to this session. All of us, including the taxpayers and the administrators, are very anxiously looking forward to this filing. This will be the first return in GST regime which a taxpayer has to file, and a number of questions are there in the minds of all the parties, so all the taxpayers and the administrators also. In this session, the agenda that I will be addressing is the agenda that we are going to take up is listed here. First, briefly, I will talk about the overview of GSTR-3B, its requirement, and then modes of filing and what needs to be information that needs to be furnished in GSTR-3B. It is a fairly simple return, which is there now for the taxpayer to file. Then I will briefly dwell upon how payment can be made and the ITC utilization rules, which are completely new to all the taxpayers. Then how it can be signed, and then there will be a brief demo on how this return GSTR-3B can be filed online. And finally, there will be a QA session. Next case. In the GST Act, we have provisions for filing GSTR 1, 2, 3 for all normal taxpayers. GSTR 1 is for outward supply statement, GSTR 2 is for inward supply. And then the system generates GSTR 3 and the taxpayer is required to file payment as per the liabilities, consolidated liabilities reflected in GSTR 3. However, when the GST rollout happened in July, there were representations from trade industry that it is a new regime and the rules have been finalized late. So their IT preparedness is not up to the mark, and that they can file a detailed GSTR 1 and 2. And considering these representations, government decided to extend the date of filing of GSTR 1 and 2 to September. But there are legal provisions incorporated in the GST Act and rules which enable the government to enabling provisions to have the taxpayer to enable the taxpayer to file a summary return in the format GSTR-3B, giving all their self-assessed liabilities and input tax credits and pay their liabilities. Now, this return has to be filed by 20th of the subsequent month. So in the normal course, the GSTR-3 is generated, but now since the GSTR 1 and 2 has been postponed, the GSTR-3B will have to be filed by the 20th for July by the 20th of this month. This GSTR-3B is required as per law whenever there is extension of GSTR 1 and 2. Presently, we have this extension for 2 months. In future, in case of any exigencies, whenever extension of filing takes place of GSTR 1 and 2, the taxpayer would be required to file in 3B. But presently, it is only for July and August that the taxpayers have to file GSTR 3B. Now in GSTR 3B, there is summary declarations of the taxable value and tax paid on outward supplies and tax paid on reverse charge supplies, and summary values of ITC availed, reversals, and ineligible ITC, and then one has to pay the taxes accordingly. Now government has there is a question which is there in everyone's mind that how will they be required to file GSTR 3 once they have filed 3B? So the government has come up with notification specifying that GSTR 3 will have to be filed. But this is the gist of the notification which you are seeing on the screen, but you will be required only to furnish incremental, pay up incremental liabilities, or you will be given credit of any extra ITC that you may have claimed in GSTR 1 and 2. Now, these are the dates which have now been formally notified by the government that GSTR 3B has to be filed for July by the 20th August, for August by the 20th September. And GSTR-1 has to be filed from 1st to 5th September for July, and from 16th to 20th September for August. And GSTR-2 has to be filed by 6th to 10th September for July and 21st to 25th September for August. And GSTR-3 will have to be the differences that are there will have to be paid through GSTR-3 between 11th and 15th September for the July tax period and 26th to 30th September for the August tax period. तो ये तो आप नोटिफाई हो गया और आप सब लोग इस डेडलाइन से परिचित होंगे कि 20 अगस्त तक हमें 3B फाइल करना है जुलाई का, और 20 सितंबर तक हमें अगस्त का 3B फाइल करना है, और इन महीनों के 1 और 2 के भी डेट्स हैं. Now GSTR-3 has to be filed by all the normal taxpayers by the 20th of August and September for the month of July. And we have enabled that people can file nil return also. If the people file a return after the due days, they will be liable to pay late fee and interest. The system, the online filing that we have enabled computes the late fee automatically, but interest has to be computed and furnished by the taxpayer. Now there are two modes of filing that we are presently are being made available to the taxpayer. One is that they will have to come to the portal and file on and enter online the details and make payment on the portal. Another mode that is being enabled is through GST Suvidha providers, that the GST Suvidha providers can, through API connectivity, can connect to the GST system and file their return, but only DSC signing will be available for them. If the taxpayer wants to do EVC signing, then he will have to come to the portal and apply the sign on the portal if he is filing through GST Suvidha provider. Now, there are very limited number of information that has to be furnished in this return. And the screen that you are seeing shows the details of the types of supplies that have to be further furnished. You have one row items for the different types of outward supplies and reverse charge supply. And you have to furnish the value or taxable value, the tax rate, and the tax amount of the different tax amounts of integrated tax, central tax, and state tax and cess. Now, there are only 4 row items. One is outward taxable supplies. That is all taxable supplies to the taxpayers within the state, outside the state, to consumers, or to a registered taxpayers. All have to be clubbed and put as one line item, and the tax that is liable to be paid on them. Then there is another row item of outward taxable supplies that is 0 rated, means that the supplies that have been made to the SEZ or exported, that supply has to be declared, and if you have paid tax on them, you can declare the tax also. Then there are 2 rows item on nil rated supplies and non-GST outward supplies, and there is another item that has to be furnished, is the inward supplies which are liable to reverse charge. Now this, since the liability is accruing from this reverse charge or inward supplies, this is being captured in this table. Now there is another table which may not appear to be of much use to the taxpayer, since this information the liability is not being computed from this table or the ITC, eligible ITC, but the information in this table is required for revenue apportionment between the different governments. So in this, you have to declare, based on the information available with you, supplies made to unregistered persons, and supplies made to composition taxable persons, and supplies made to UIN holders which are interstate. So all interstate supplies, their taxable value, their state code, and the tax amount has to be furnished in this table. And there are questions that people are saying that they may not be knowing whether the person is a composition taxable person or not, but they have to furnish to the best of their knowledge these information. Next, there is a table in which summary declarations of the input tax credit is required. In this A part, in this A part, you have to declare the ITC that you have availed, available ITC on the different, on imports of goods, imports of services, on your reverse charge inputs, and on inward supplies from ISD. And there is another column, all other ITC. This all other ITC presently represents input ITC claimed on inward supplies from all the domestic purchases, that is purchases within the state and purchases outside the state. Now, since in this you have to declare all the availed ITC at the invoice level that you have accounted for, but you would have, if you are doing supplies to non-business or exempt supplies, then you need to reverse the ITC that is available on this at the invoice level. And the next section shows the different the two line items of reversal that you have computed, and you are required to compute on your own and declare it. And then the net ITC comes from a subtraction of the ITC available minus the ITC reversed. Another section is there in which you have to furnish ineligible ITC, that is ITC which are clear to you at the moment you purchase that these are not eligible ITCs. They may be because of section 17.5 or other sections, other reasons, which you know right at the beginning that it is ineligible, and so accordingly you will account for and declare it. Now, TDS, TCS credit, there is a table which people have to declare on their own. Presently, these provisions are not applicable, so for the month of July, you will not be required to furnish this information. Then there is one table for furnishing the inward exempt, nil-rated, and non-GST inward supplies. Once you have furnished all these information, the tax computed on the basis of these declarations have to be paid to either ITC or cash payment, which will be available in your cash ledger. This ITC payment will be the ITC which you declare will go to your ITC ledger, and then you can make accordingly. One thing which I think all the taxpayer will have to get familiarized with, and it is new, that there is a prioritization rule for utilization of ITC, that IGST credit can be first utilized only for IGST liability, and then CGST liability, and then SGST liability. Similarly, CGST credit has to be first utilized for CGST liability and then IGST liability, and similar is the provision for SGST credit. Now, these utilization rules have been built in the application, and you have to be cautious while furnishing these details. Otherwise, during the validation, the system will throw an error. Now, there are two ways in which a taxpayer can sign this electronic furnished 3B. One way in which he can sign is by applying a DSC. Now, DSC is mandatory for all the taxpayers who are companies or registered under Companies Act, and all other taxpayer can file through electronic verification. मतलब ये दो प्रकार की साइनिंग सभी टैक्सपेयर्स को करनी है, एक DSC का यूज करके, जो DSC आप उन लोगों को यूज करना है जो कंपनीज एक्ट में रजिस्टर्ड हैं, और इलेक्ट्रॉनिक वेरिफिकेशन कोड से बाकी सभी टैक्सपेयर साइन कर सकते हैं. दिस इलेक्ट्रॉनिक वेरिफिकेशन कोड बहुत ही एक सिंपल प्रोसीजर है, जिसमें एक OTP जो है आएगा, जो भी ऑथराइज सिग्नेटरी उसको सबमिट करेगा साइनिंग के लिए, उसके मोबाइल पर आएगा, और ही हैज टू एंटर इट इन दैट OTP ऑन द पोर्टल, और वो साइनिंग कंप्लीट हो जाएगा. नाउ, साइनिंग में जो एक सबसे बड़ी DSC साइनिंग में लोगों को प्रॉब्लम फेस होती रहती है, उसका एक ब्रीफ यहाँ डिफरेंट है, स्टेप्स दिए हैं. आप ऑलरेडी फेमिलियर होंगे, जो लोग DSC साइन करके अपना रजिस्ट्रेशन एप्लीकेशन अपलोड करे होंगे, वो DSC से फेमिलियर है. लेकिन फिर भी एक ब्रीफली कि DSC आपको रजिस्टर करना है. DSC अप्लाई करने के लिए you need to have Internet Explorer, Chrome 49 and Firefox browsers installed, either of them installed on your desktop. And then you have to have a Windows operating system, a 32-bit, 64-bit machine, then the Java, these are the different installed, JRE installed, and admin access to install EM Signer. And you have to, the following ports need to be open: 164580801811220832948. And one has to go to our DSC on our site and download EM Signer 2.6 and install it on his computer to basically to complete the signing process. तो संक्षेप में मैंने अभी आपको जो है 3B के मुख्य जो है फीचर्स थे उनके बारे में बताया कि इसमें 3-4 टेबल्स हैं। एक टेबल में आपको आउटवर्ड सप्लाई का विवरण देना है, दूसरे जिसमें आपका जो भी करयोग सप्लाई है विदिन मतलब प्रदेश में या हिंदुस्तान के अंदर, या आपने जो एक्सपोर्ट किया है, या जो आपने निल रेटेड और एग्जेम्प्ट सप्लाईज करी है, और जो आपने रिवर्स चार्ज की इनवर्ट सप्लाई ली है, इसके एक टेबल है, और नॉन जीएसटी सप्लाई की। फिर आपको अगर आपने ये सप्लाई प्रांत बाहर के पंजीकृत अपंजीकृत कॉम्पोजिशन यूआईन होल्डर्स को दी है तो उनको करनी है, आपको उसका एक विवरण देना है। ये यूज होगा सेटलमेंट के लिए, इससे कोई आपकी लायबिलिटी और क्रेडिट नहीं होगी। और एलिजिबल आईटीसी जो है इसका आपको विवरण देना है। इसके अतिरिक्त आपको पेमेंट मतलब एक एग्जेम्प्ट जो आपने खरीदा है उन निल रेटेड और जीएसटी का विवरण देना है। फिर आपको पेमेंट जो है वहां पर करना है आईटीसी को यूज करके, और ये टैक्स और जो कैश आपके कैश लेजर में है उसको यूज करके। पेमेंट में जो विशेष बात आपको ध्यान देनी है कि जब हम आईटीसी का उपयोग कर रहे हैं तो अब आपको आईटीसी का उपयोग जब आप कर रहे हैं तो उसमें एक प्रायोरिटाइजेशन रूल हमारे कानून में है कि अगर आईजीएसटी क्रेडिट का आपको उपयोग करना है अपनी लायबिलिटी पे करने के लिए तो पहले आप उसे आईजीएसटी लायबिलिटी को पे करने का उपयोग करेंगे, उसके बाद सीजीएसटी लायबिलिटी और फिर एसजीएसटी लायबिलिटी। इसी तरीके से सीजीएसटी क्रेडिट में भी आपका उपयोग पहले सीजीएसटी लायबिलिटी और फिर आईजीएसटी लायबिलिटी है। और एसजीएसटी क्रेडिट में भी एक प्रायोरिटी है कि उसको पहले एसजीएसटी लायबिलिटी कोई है उसको आपको डिस्चार्ज करना है, उसके बाद ही आप आईजीएसटी लायबिलिटी से पे कर सकते हैं। यहाँ ध्यान देने की बात है कि सीजीएसटी क्रेडिट से आप एसजीएसटी लायबिलिटी नहीं पे कर सकते और एसजीएसटी क्रेडिट से आप सीजीएसटी लायबिलिटी नहीं पे कर सकते। बाकी इसको दो तरीके से फाइल किया जा सकता है। एक पोर्टल पे आके आपको अपनी डेटा एंट्री करनी है, और दूसरा आप इलेक्ट्रॉनिक वेरिफिकेशन कोड से आप इसको जो है साइन कर सकते हैं। मतलब आपको डीएससी अप्लाई करना है साइन करने के लिए, या इलेक्ट्रॉनिक वेरिफिकेशन कोड से। इलेक्ट्रॉनिक वेरिफिकेशन कोड में ओटीपी आपके मोबाइल पर आएगा, जो ऑथराइज सिग्नेटरी है उसके मोबाइल पर आएगा, उसे वो ओटीपी एंटर करना है और वो साइन हो जाएगा आपका रिटर्न। और इस रिटर्न को हम दो तरीके से फाइल कर सकते हैं, एक तो पोर्टल पे आके, दूसरा जीएसटी सुविधा प्रोवाइडर के माध्यम से। अब इसके बाद जो है हम आपको जो है एक डेमो, इसका एक सिंपल सा जो फॉर्म है ऑनलाइन फाइलिंग का, हम डेमो आपको ऑनलाइन फाइलिंग का डेमो अब आपको दिखाएंगे। ब्रेक ले लीजिए, 1 मिनट ब्रेक।
We're just taking a half a minute to 1 minute break here. Just be there with us.
All your indirect tax requirements. The new registrant will come to the GST portal www.gst.gov.in.
Taxpayer shall click on New User Login.
This will open a new page where all the important required information has been given. He shall select type of taxpayer, for example, normal, casual tax person, non-resident taxable person, UN body, etc. On the same page, he shall have to fill the PAN number of the business and mobile number and email ID of the authorized signatory. The system will validate the PAN number from the income tax database. The mobile number and email addresses are verified through 2 separate OTPs. After their successful validation, a TRN will be generated. This TRN will be valid for 15 days. The new registrant can use this TRN for proceeding further. An OTP will be received again on the phone and email. After entering CAPTCHA, the main application shall open with 9 different tabs and 1 verification tab for the convenience of the applicant. In the Business Detail tab, one shall fill the details of business, reason for registration, and other related information. If the new registrant wants to opt in for composition, he shall be required to click on the declaration box or flag mentioned in the Business Detail tab. In the Promoter Partner tab, details of the proprietor, promoter, partner can be filled. Details like name, father's name, residential address, PAN number and Aadhaar are also required to be filled in. They will also be required to upload a photograph. A maximum of 10 promoter partner details can be added in the Add button. Please save and continue. Now come to the Authorized Signatory tab. All the information related to the authorized signatory like name, father's name, date of birth, PAN, Aadhaar and residential address can be filled in with a photograph of the concerned person file. In the Principal Place of Business tab, the new registrant can enter the details of location of his or her principal place of business. Documentary proof like electricity bill, municipal receipt, rent agreement, lease agreement, etc. is required to be uploaded. The principal place of business in a state can only be one. In the Additional Place of Business tab, the new registrant can fill the details of additional places of business located in that particular state. No document is required to be uploaded. A maximum of 9,999 additional places of business can be filled in. In Goods and Services tab, one can enter a maximum of 5 goods and/or 5 services.
Goods and services can be searched by the taxpayer.
In the Bank Account Details tab, branch name with the IFSC code is required to be selected from the drop-down menu. The first page of the passbook, bank statement and
नहीं अभी तो खुल गया है देखते हैं तो friends, now we will have a brief demo on how to file GSTR-3B on the portal. You can see after login, each taxpayer, if you log in through your valid user credentials, you will be able to see the months for which you are required to file return. Say there is a question that if you are registered in August, whether you will be required to file July return. So if you are registered in August, you will be required to file only return from the date of liability, and that very date will be month will only be visible in this. So if we have a user who is registered in August, so you can file return of only August. This is a test environment, so you are able to see that August return and you can file it. So once you search for August, you will see the returns that are required to be filed by this taxpayer. They're visible on his dashboard. Now, for you can see that the GSTR1, the tile of GSTR1 is visible, then 2A is visible. These two have already been released, and you can furnish your invoice level data in GSTR1, but you can file it only from 1st to 5th for July and subsequently for August. But in the last you are seeing a tile for GSTR-3B. So this you are required to file. You click here, prepare online, you will see the different sections of GSTR-3B which you are required to file. And in the top, you can see the name of your firm, the GSTN and the due date of filing and tax period, all those things. And whatever you have saved earlier will be shown in the tiles. I have already entered some data in the different tables, and it is getting reflected on these tiles. So in the first section, what you can see, which is about the tax on outward and reverse charge inward supplies, I have already filed these for the data whose summary is visible here. If I click, but I can change this till I submit it. So I click here, I can see the values which I have filed earlier. I can change them. Say I change this. I found that my total taxable value of outward supplies other than nil rated was 10 lakhs and not 5 lakhs. So I change it to 10 lakhs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, take. The integrated tax which I am required to pay, these values you have to compute yourself and furnish. So the integrated tax that I'm required to pay is now 50,000. And the central tax that I'm required to pay is 70,000 and 70,000. Okay. And cess I am required to pay is 1,000. Now, on the next, you are required to declare your outward supplies zero rated, that is supplies to export supplies and supplies to SEZ, which is 20,000 here. The value is, you can increase it to 2 lakhs. Other outward supplies you can declare here, which may be 5 lakhs. You can change it to 5 lakhs. Earlier it was 50,000 declaration. And inward supplies liable to reverse charge is declare 1 lakh. So you can have 1 lakh here. But you have to declare the tax that is liable to be paid on reverse charge, which is 6,000 here. And non-GST supply may be like petrol, diesel, all these things you have purchased of 60,000 that you need to declare here. One thing which I think people should not get confused is, though the header here is total taxable value, but in case of non-taxable rows, you declare the value of the supplies, because there won't be any tax on them, but still you have to declare the values here. Once you have entered these details here, you need to press this confirm button. This confirm button updates the tile values that you see on the top. But if you want to exit after doing this, you need to press the save button also. Otherwise, this data will get lost and you will again have to furnish. Now, once you save it, all the data will remain there. If you come again, you will find this data in the section 3.1. Similarly, you have to declare this value of total state-wise details of unregistered taxable persons, composition taxable persons, and UIN holders. I have furnished the 2 rows already. I can add another row here. Say I want to declare unregistered supplies to Haryana. No, not Haryana. It will maybe Bihar. And the total taxable value is 2 lakhs. And the tax is 5,000. See, you have to declare similarly for supplies made to interstate composition taxable persons and interstate UIN holders. You need to keep one thing in mind, that in the earlier table, you are required to furnish the total integrated tax that is liable to be paid on your outward supplies. So the system is going to only validate that the total tax, integrated tax that you have declared in this table is less than the value that you have declared there. So you have to, if there is any error, the system, when you save, will throw a system error. Then you can confirm to update the tile on the dashboard and save here to save it so that it doesn't get erased if you are exiting or if your session is timed out. In this 4th section, you have to declare the ITC available. Now, ITC can be availed on import of goods, and which you will pay at the custom frontiers. That ITC you have to declare here based on the bill of entry documents. Then in case of import of services, you have to yourself pay taxes, which you declare in the above earlier table 3.1, and you claim credit in this table. Similar is the case for reverse charge supplies. And in case of ISD ISD invoices, the invoices that you have received from your other ISD registered parent units, that you have to declare in this row. It can be, suppose I declare here 5,000 here that you have received from the ISD, 5,000 integrated tax credit, and 6,000 central tax. 50,000 there, 60,000 and 60,000. All other, there is a row of all other ITC, which is the ITC that you are availing on inward supplies from other taxable persons within the state or outside the state. Now, this is a very broad category. Most of the time, you will have entry only in this category. But if you have carried out any reverse charge inward supplies, then you will declare under other categories or imports. Now, one question which people are asking, that where can they declare their credits which are allowable to them, transitional credits which are allowable to them as per the legal provisions of GST law. Now, what the understanding so far is that in this return, you have to declare the credits that are available to you based on your inward supplies in the tax period, say August or July, whichever tax period return you are filing. For transitional credits, you will have to file Trans 1 and Trans 2 form, which will be soon available on the portal. When you file this Trans 1 form, after certain validations, if the entry is valid, if the form filing is valid, then the credit that you claim will get auto-populated to the ITC ledger. And once those credits are entered or credited to the ITC ledger, you can use those credits for paying the tax liability when you are paying whether of 3B during the payment of 3B liabilities in this 3B return, or later on pre-return or after a couple of months. So far, this provision, this facility is not available that you can claim ITC credit also in this ITC available. This is only for in respect of the inward supplies during the tax period. Now, as per Rule 4243 of CGST rule, you are required to reverse ITC if part of your supplies are being used for non-business or for exempted supplies. And those reversals have to be declared in this row. Suppose this business, the reversal is 50,000 rupees. You can declare here 50,000 for integrated tax and 40,000 for CGST and 40,000 here for SGST. These reversals you are required to do. You declare here. Other reversals you can declare any other reversals. 2,000 and 2,000. Now, net ITC available will be computed in the system and will be reflected in this row. This is, you don't have to enter, it gets automatically calculated. And this is the ITC which will be available to you for utilization in this tax period. Now, ineligible ITC details are also to be furnished. Certain inward supplies, you know right at the beginning that the ITC is not eligible, you are not eligible for ITC on them. You have to declare. There are two rows, one as per 17.5, like cars and those things. There is a list in section 17.5 for which you are not entitled for ITC right at the outset. That you have to declare here. Say I declare 6,000 in this table and 10,000 in this table and 10,000 here. And say maybe cess credit you are not eligible for 5,000. Now, other ineligible ITC, because you are exclusively using it maybe for non-business or exempt or some other purpose, that you have to declare here. And once you have declared your ITC details, you need to confirm here. These details will get populated in this summary tile that you see on the dashboard. And if you save it, then it will get and their total amount in section 3.2. But you see, when I'm saying is saving there is an error here because the total integrated tax that I declared in 3.2 is more than the tax in 3.1. So I need to change it. I will make it 10,000. $5,000. Now it is not showing any error. I think there should not be any error. It has been saved now. Similarly, you can declare your exempt and nil-rated and non-GST supplies. Then what you do is, once you have declared all these and you are sure that you want to now freezes, the submit button is now enabled. Since you have completed all the sections, when you submit, the data will get frozen. Then you cannot change it. So I submit here. Now what happens is when you submit this button, your credits get auto-populated into your ITC ledger, and your liability gets posted to your liability ledger. And now this payment tile will get enabled, and you can pay your taxes based on making use of the ITC available to you and the cash available in the cash ledger. For this taxpayer, now all the tax payable, reverse charge and non-reverse charge are being shown separately in this table. You can see here on the left in the second column. And now you have to declare how you are going to use your ITC and cash to pay the return, to pay the liabilities in this 3B return. There is a button you can see on the bottom for checking balance. If you press this button, you will see the balance that is available in your cash ledger and ITC ledger. In cash balance, you see there is no amount cash available here, but ITC, since we have claimed ITC in the return, there is an ITC of 16,000, integrated tax ITC of 16,000, central tax ITC of 23,000, and state tax ITC of 23,000, and a 500 cess ITC available for utilization. Now you can make use of this ITC to make payment here. You say 50,000, you use 10,000 here. You use 20,000 here. And you use 40,000. Cash, there is no cash. If you write here, the system will throw an error. And even if if you're not following prioritization rule, then if you submit, you have to confirm here in the bottom of the offset liability button is there. So if you press this button, these liabilities will be discharged, but there is a restriction here that you have to, if all your liabilities are discharged, then only this operation will be successful. And if your declaration of ITC utilization is as per rule, then only you can successfully offset liability. Since you see, we have not paid all the liabilities, the system is throwing an error, which was visible there, and you cannot submit it. But if you are able to submit successfully, then it will be successful. देखें जरा कितना इसकी liability है, 50, 70, 120, 190, 191. कितना credit available? Credit available is less, so we cannot file a valid return for this taxpayer unless until we make payment into the cash ledger. Now, one question that has come from a participant is that where will be the tax paid on RCM will reflect in GSTR-3B? See, you have to first declare it in the table 3.1, and then your liability, when you are making payment, your reverse charge liabilities will be shown separately in this payment. So once iske baad offset ke baad, if you go back, say once if you have successfully paid all your liabilities, what will happen? This file GSTR-3B with EVC button will be enabled. That you have to press, an OTP will, and then you have to select the authorized signatory. And when you proceed for EVC filing, an OTP will come to your mobile registered mobile authorized signatory with the GST portal, and he has to enter that OTP to successfully file the return. I think we have to keep in mind that you can successfully file return only when you have discharged all your liabilities. That was a brief demo of the process that you have to follow for successfully filing 3B return. Now I think we may take questions. Huh? See, e-commerce operator. One question is there, that whether e-commerce operator are required to file GSTR-3B. Now, e-commerce operator, if he is supplying business, which he is in the business of supplying goods and services which are owned by him, then he's a normal taxpayer and he will have to file GSTR-3B and discharge his liability on his own supplies of goods and services. However, if he's supplying goods and services of other taxpayers, there is another return for them. For they will be required to collect TCS amount, but that provision is not yet notified. When it gets notified, they will have to collect that TCS amount and then file a return GSTR-8. They will not have to require. They will not be required to file GSTR-3B. इसमें question आ जाएंगे. Now, often many taxpayers are asking this question, that whether they will be required to file nil return. Since I think we should remember that this 3B is basically the return which a taxpayer has to file in the prescribed manner, which is 3B, which gives the details of outward supplies of and credits availed as per section 39. So he has to file this return mandatorily, all registered taxpayers who are doing normal business. And if they have not supplied any goods or service during the tax period, and they have not received any goods or services, they have to file a nil return. Next, I think it has been made clear that transition, so far there are no facility for entering, no provisions in the rule or law to claim transitional credit through 3B. Now there is another question from Priya Jain. She is asking that if they have missed any invoices while filing GSTR-3B, can we update the same in GSTR-1 and pay additional liability while filing GSTR-3 of July? Surely you can do that, but you will have to pay interest accordingly while filing GSTR-3, and the different notifications have made this very clear, that any adjustment that you make, you can do in GSTR-1 and 2 and subsequently in 3. 3B cannot be revised. Any revision will have to take place through 1 and 2 and 3. Most of the people, I think there are several questions on transitional credits, whether they can claim in GSTR-3B. So far, our understanding is the legal provisions don't allow claim of a transitional credit in GSTR-3B. It has to come through transition forms 1 and 2. Now, there are several questions on transition, which I think one should be very clear that in this 3B, it is related to transactions of the tax period July and August, and only those reductions that are allowable under law can be accommodated in this while declaring this 3B. Like you can take benefit of say credit notes, or you can pay additional tax through debit notes on invoices which are of the pre-GST period. most of the questions are on transition, which I think I have made clear. This is, see, 3B is a very simple return, and all detailed adjustments you will be able to do it in transparently do it in 1 and 2. In 3B, no refund you can claim in 3B. It is one question is very simple, that how will I bill my clients with SGST or CGST and receive credits? See, you must be familiar that the provision of the provisions of our GST Act and rules, that at the time of invoicing, in case of goods and within a certain period in case of services delivery, you have to issue invoice, and that determines your time of supply, and accordingly you have to pay taxes. So you have to follow all those rules that are prescribed in GST law for for payment, for accounting, payment of liabilities, for advances, for supplies of goods and services. And in 3B, you have to consolidate all that information and supply a single line item. So in 3B, we are not asking you to declare the details. These details will be captured when you are filing GSTR 1 and 2. In 3B, you have to do it on your own. Next here. See, all the migrated taxpayers are advised to complete their REG 26, that is, furnish all the information on the GST portal to file the GSTR-3B return. Next, I think there is another question of how to calculate interest. That interest calculation in month of July, the interest that may be liable is if you file late return, and you have to pay interest on the outstanding liabilities as per the stipulated interest rate of that has been prescribed in GST law. As I made clear, composition dealer are not required to file GSTR-3B. They will have to file a quarterly return, which is GSTR-4 in the month of October after the completion of the first quarter from July, August, September. And it is a simplified return, which will be made available on GST portal very soon. Then there are several other questions. There is one question from Raktim Mukherjee, that if input tax is greater than output tax, how can we adjust the same? See, in GST scheme, you claim credit on input tax that you pay. And if in a particular month your credit is more than your liability, then you have the option of using the credit to pay all your liability to the extent it is available in your ledger, and keep excess credit. The excess credit will remain in your ledger, which can be used later on for paying the liability of next month's return. That is when you file your GSTR-3B of August, you can avail the ITC credit, excess ITC credit, which will be available in your ITC ledger based on July filing. Nil return you will have to file, and it is enabled on the system. If you delay filing, you will be liable to pay interest and late fee both. See, on reverse charge, on the reverse charge supplies which are liable for reverse charge liability under section 9.3 and 9.4. These supplies are treated as your supplies, and the applicable tax rate will be same as that for outward supplies of similar goods or services. See, in this table, there is a, I think in the ITC table, we had a section of eligible ITC. What is required is to be furnished in this column is eligible ITC based on the inward supplies in this particular month, in the tax period of July, and when you file August, in the tax period of August. Any excess ITC that you have in a particular month, in a particular head, that will be credited to your ITC ledger. Since all the ITC get credited, if any excess remains after utilization, it will be available for utilization in subsequent months. That you don't have to declare in the return. Unlike in VAT returns, as was the case in earlier laws. IGST payment, you have to do it. I think all these different heads, CGST, SGST, IGST payment, you can pay either by making use of the credit available in your ITC ledger or through cash payments that will get credited to your cash ledger when you make payments through Challan. But in case of IGST payment, you should keep in mind all these payments when you are utilizing this input tax credit, you should keep in mind the prioritization rule, that you have to first use the credits for the liability, for the same liability if any exists, and in case of CGST credit, you have to first pay IGST liability and then SGST liability. Then and there are several questions on transition. I've already specified that transition credits will be routed or will be posted in ITC ledger when you file your transition forms 1 and 2. 2 you have to file after every return, and one time based on your, there are different sections in that transition form, and what you claim, if it is prima facie valid and there are no contradictions, it will get posted to your ITC ledger. And then you can make use of that credit for paying your liabilities or return liabilities of GSTR-3B. But presently, since trans 1 form is not there, you have to make use of the credit that you declare in GSTR-3B form. This form is very soon will be available. And subsequently, while filing returns of August and September, you will be able to use those credits. Not audible बोल रहा है कोई. अच्छा. If ITC is credit में, हाँ. That I've already, I mean, there is one question: if ITC credit is more than the tax on output supply, how the adjustment will be made? I have already stated this, that if ITC credit is more, it essentially means that after using the ITC credit for paying all your liabilities, there will be excess amount of ITC credit available in your ITC ledger. Now, this credit can be used when you make payments subsequently of the while filing returns of August, September, or any other period. There is one question that while migrating, we use the DSC. Do we need to register DSC once again on GSTN? See, if you have registered once, you can make use of that DSC. And in the same manner, you can sign the GST return when you are filing GSTR-3B. See, one question is, what is non-GST inward supplies? See, all supplies which are not covered under GST law, like petroleum, like electricity, which are not in the ambit, like alcohol, these are non-GST supplies, and both they have to be declared separately, both their outward supplies and their inward supplies in different tables. No close. See, one thing I think people are getting confused is that in the existing returns of VAT returns, you had to declare opening ITC and a closing ITC. Now in VAT, in GST, what we are implementing is a mechanism where there will be a ITC ledger and there will be a cash ledger, and a liability ledger. These are three separate ledgers, and whatever ITC you claim, these get credited to your ITC ledger, and you make debit payments of the liabilities from this ITC ledger. So to the extent there is any excess credit available, it will be reflected in your ITC ledger, and you can subsequently use that ITC when you make payment of other liabilities, other tax period or other types of liability. Ineligible ITC, you have tracked it. There is a question, how will we track ineligible ITC? That you have to track based on your own accounting. Basically, this is input tax for which you are not entitled for ITC because they are under section. They don't. You cannot claim because of the restrictions imposed in section 17(5) or because they are being exclusively used for use of exempt or non-business purpose. See, revision, but there is another, I think this is the last question, which because of time constraints that may be taken up is the revision allowed is the revision in GSTR-3B allowed? See, GSTR-3B, till you are saving and preparing, you can revise umpteen times on the portal. But once you have submitted, you cannot revise GSTR-3B. Any revision that has to be effected for the declaration of that month will be routed through GSTR 1, 2, and 3 of the subsequent tax periods. That's all. I think we had a very lengthy session. It is a fairly simple form, and I hope the taxpayers will be easily able to comply with this first GST compliance requirement. Thank you. We will again come back with another topic.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks for the participation. Good amount of people happens to attend this webinar. There are a lot of questions that we have received. Due to the paucity of the time, we could not really answer each one of them. However, we keep an endeavor to answer those queries, and we will keep on posting those answers on our kms.negd.in. Again, we are sharing the demo of where we do place these videos and question and answer sessions. You may go to any explorer, just type kms.negd.in. It takes you to the website of NEGD for knowledge management system. You may just click on the down arrow. It takes you to the search window. In the search window, you may type GST and all the related results for GST, whether it is a video recording for the session or it is the presentation for the session or the question answers related to the GST topic. These all are enlisted here. You may download all of them from this website. At the same time, in LMS, we do upload the video recordings of these sessions. Once again, thank you each one of you, and we thank MyGov, National E-Governance Division, and GSTN, and the speaker of today. Thank you so much. We're coming back with the next webinar at 4 p.m. today, which is in Marathi language, Tamil language, sorry, for the offline tool. Thank you so much.